So this is the episode I've been really badly hyping up because I'm really bad at. I'm English. We don't promote ourselves really well. So this video it's just a bit of fun. It's not set in stone. Don't come out saying, "Well, you missed this book off. This one should be part of the top 10 as well." Blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. It's comic books. It's not gospel. This is my own choice. Just 10 books, not DC or Marvel, that I think everybody should experience. Everybody should at least read it, or preferably have it on their shelf as an evergreen that they can come back to. Now, there's two caveats. Like I said, it can't be Marvel or DC. It's got to be either a series that's complete, and or a series that might not be complete, but you can jump in on it anytime. You can pick up one book and you don't need to get any of the others. It's a complete essence in itself in that one book, and it's also got to be in print and available for buying still today. Okay, because I hate those videos. I've been guilty of doing it myself, where you recommend a book and you can't buy it anywhere unless you pay like £60 or £70 on the second-hand book market. So I want to make this as user-friendly as possible. So these are 10 books or 10 series that I recommend to everybody. And there's another one that I'm not going to mention ones that are blatantly obvious, like Invincible, because you can get Invincible in any format: compact, compendium, deluxe format, and omnibus. And it hypes itself, so it doesn't need me to go and buy Invincible. And I don't want to make it that kind of obvious way. It's more like a Marvel kind of superhero kind of title. So these are ones that I think are classics in their own right, modern day classics. Some of them are proper outstanding classics. So I'm just going to do 10. It's in no particular order. None of them are better than the other. They're all completely different from each other. But we'll start with one. Well, of course, we'll start with the first one, which is Usagi Yojimbo. So at the moment, Dark Horse are doing these really nice, very reasonable. This was $29.99. You get over 600 pages in it of Usagi Yojimbo. This is book one of, I think this is the book one of when Dark Horse took it over. So you've not got the Fantagraphic stuff which goes beforehand. But like I said, my caveat was getting books that you can jump in with anywhere, and you can with this. You don't need the knowledge of that. You could get this, which is book one. You could get book two, book five. You could get the IDW black and white ones that they did, which are thinner ones. With Usagi Yojimbo, you can jump in on any book, and you're in the story straight away. So if you've never read it, and I'm sure you've seen him on like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon back in the 80s and 90s. So he's basically a samurai bunny. This uses anthropomorphic characters, but you forget the cute animals, and it's very clever because it's like with that recent series what Rick Remender's doing. The war one. Oh my god, I've got a complete brain fart. You know which one? I'm sure somebody like Geeky or Hog wrote, well, actually, it's this. But you know the one I mean, the one about where it's animals fighting and it's like a Second World War analogy. Anyway, so sometimes the comic can convey a personality and the character of the story better. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, why am I blanking on everything? Because I've had a good meal. The Patrick Hovarth book as well. Oh my god, I normally remember stuff like that, but yeah, maybe it's because I'm going to be really old in a few days' time. And again, I've got an Amazon wish list. But what am I saying? Yeah, but sometimes, yeah, okay, reel it back in. Sometimes having a story where you use animals instead of people, it can convey the story much when you're not distracted by saying, oh, they've not got the likeness right on this page. And it works with this. You straight away you're thrown into this world of samurais, the samurai way, the way of honor, how things were back in the days. of the samurai, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And Stan Sakai seamlessly blends in Japanese folklore and mythology as well, without it being glaring and like, oh, that feels unnatural. It's just wonderful. The action is fantastic. He's just so fluid with his art style. He's another one of the greats like Sergio Aragonés, where with Stan Sakai, his line work seems deceptively simple, but he can fit so much in. Like, look at all the people on there. And Usagi is such a likable character. Each story, like I said, is complete in itself, but then but you do get rewarded if you've been reading it for a while, because there's little plot points or characters from previous stories that suddenly appear way down the line again later. And so you kind of like rewarded as a loyal reader. You go, oh yeah, I remember that character. And it's just great. The dialogue's great. It's not overly verbose, because he's a cartoonist at the end of the day, Stan Sakai. So he lets a lot of the artwork, because he's the artist and the writer, he lets a lot of the artwork do the heavy lifting for the plot as well. And it works perfectly. There's a synergy to it, what you don't get in a lot of comics. And Usagi Yojimbo is one of the most likable characters created in comics. This is easily one of my all-time favourite books. I've read it in numerous formats. I read it back in the day when it was released through Mirage. I read it back in the day. Did have a few of the Fantagraphic ones back in the 80s. And I've read the Dark Horse ones. And I've had different various graphic novel collections. But this, for me, is the best way to read it. It's just a really nice, chunky way. I wish to do this for Groot as well. But apparently Sergio doesn't like big collections. So makes me really sad. But yeah, so that's my first one. Usagi Yojimbo. This definitely should be on anybody's shelf in whatever format you wish to get it, whether it's in collector's edition like this, in the slimmer volumes what IDW have done, or whether it's just the series of mini-series what Dark Horse do in floppies. You will be rewarded. And like I said, Stan Sakai is really clever in how he lets it live on in so many different formats as well. So that's the first one. Now, it wouldn't be a Mandy video, if I didn't have something from 2000 AD, and especially if I didn't have something from Alan Moore. So this kills two birds with one stone. And this is the Ballad of Halo Jones. Currently it's out in this beautiful deluxe, which I've done an overview of, hardback from Rebellion, who are the publishers of 2000 AD. This collects all three books. It's been really, really beautifully coloured. And this is Alan Moore without pretension. It's still very clever. He's invented it's almost like a language, what they used in Clockwork Orange, which initially is jarring, but then you get into the rhythm of it, and you don't even realise that you're reading new slang words and new terminologies. And it's a really wonderful feminist parable as well. She is one of the coolest characters, female characters, that, unlike Tank Girl, where it's like Riot Girl kind of thing, Halo Jones is just your typical everyday girl who is thrust into these adventures, and each book shows her growth as a person and shows her interaction with these alien worlds and these alien species. It's just a masterclass. Now, obviously, there's the famous thing where this was meant to go on for, I think, for about 5 books initially, but it stops at 3 because Alan Moore burns his bridges with most companies. And I don't know the reason why he stopped with this, but I'm sure I do, but I must have forgotten. But yeah, it's just the perfect, as it says on here, it's a perfect feminist space opera, and it's got beautiful artwork by Ian Gibson, who previous to this found fame in 2000 AD with Robo Hunter, but this was his best artwork. And everything about it, from the writing to the colouring to the artwork, just works perfectly. It's a beautiful coloured version of this as well, because before it originally was black and white. It's a beautiful volume to get in this format. This is the way to read it. You can get it in other formats as well if you hunt around. But yeah, it's a modern classic for a reason. This is more well known in the UK. It's only now, I think, recently since the release of this version, that it's getting its flowers in America as well. But if you've never read it, and maybe you've sometimes think, oh, Alan Moore can be a bit inaccessible, it can be a bit wordy. This will surprise you. There's a whimsy to it. It's weird. It can be very whimsical, and then suddenly, this is how good he is. He can suddenly pull the rug from under you, and you're like, oh, and you feel for each character in this book. There's little bits where you think, I didn't see that happening. And I've read this book numerous times, and even now, I forget that there's certain plot points what happen. And that's just a sign of how good a storyteller Alan Moore is. So yeah, this is my next one on the list, The Ballad of Halo Jones. So like I said, it's currently available in this beautiful, oversized hardcover with wonderful colouring. The colouring is by Barbara Nascenzo, artwork by Ian Gibson, written by Alan Moore, and it's got great back matter as well. It's got the scripts from Alan Moore and plot points and how the ideas came about and stuff like that. So yeah, it comes highly recommended. Ballad of Halo Jones. Sometimes you can enjoy a book and reread a book even if each time you read it you know it's going to leave you broken. It's going to have a strong impact on your life. And keeping on with the anthropomorphic, talking animals thing that I mentioned with Usagi Yojimbo, but this one takes that to another level to make it this heart-wrenching yet uplifting story about this artist's parents surviving and living through one of the worst times in history, the Holocaust, and its mouse, the complete mouse. What I'm going to go on a rant now, and I think this is a worthy rant. This pisses me off how fucking stupid, small-minded Americans try and ban this book. This book should be in every classroom. This should be required reading. This shows you the horror of the Holocaust, the evilness of what went on, and it shows you the hope and the power and the will to survive when you could just give up and literally just die. And the artwork initially looks so simplistic, but you end up losing yourself in these characters. So the Jews are mice. I think the Poles are pigs. The Polish ones are pigs. And yeah, the Nazis, the Germans are cats, if I remember rightly. And like I said, this broke me. I've read this about 6 or 7 times, if not more. Each time it breaks me anew, but then I feel rewarded after reading it. For me, on a personal point, I've known 2 wonderful, wonderful, beautiful ladies who are no longer with us, who were both survivors of different concentration camps. They both had the tattoos on their arms. They sorry. They both lost their families in the camps as young girls. And they came through. One of them became a doctor. The other the other one became this amazing force of nature who used to terrify me as a little kid and who I fell in love with when I got to be a teenager, who I just thought was the most wonderful person on earth. She had such a strength of character. She would literally do anything for you, and she could be she had a tongue on her like nobody's business. But when I got to, like I said, a young teen, she recounted her days of growing up in, with the Nazi occupation, and it left an imprint on my life. As you can see, I'm filling up now just thinking about it. And so reading this, I first read this when I was 16, so that's a long time ago, and I think because I had the personal experience as well of actually knowing two survivors of this horrible, horrible hellscape, it hit home even more, and I could feel what Art Spiegelman felt when he was speaking to his parents about it, because I could vividly remember the stories what my like lovely Jewish lady told me, and the other one who was a doctor, and so it hits home really much. I could just like visualize them in his parents' place, where they lost everything, but they came through the other end. You know, there was light at the end of this horrible, horrible tunnel. So this is a must read. In fact, I would say out of all the 10 books, if you're just going to keep one, it's this one, because this is an important historical document, and we should not forget. It's yeah, that's all I can say for that. Okay, keeping it on the war theme, we have another book that should be in every public library. Should be on the curriculum of schools where they're studying about the First World War, Second World War, the horrors of war, and that's Charlie's War by Pat Mills and Joe Cochran. I know Geeky Hog has this beautiful art book of original art of Joe Cochran from this series. I highly recommend checking his video out. There you go, Geeky Hog, giving you some hype there. But this, like Geeky Hog did, I did as well. My brother used to get Battle Comic, which was a weekly boys' war comic, and it had your typical gung-ho war stories, and then it had this, which was unlike anything else in Battle at the time. That's kind of like run parallel to 2000 AD in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And this, unlike all the other stories in Battle, instead of being a Second World War story, this was set in the First World War. It just had Joe Cochran doing the artwork, and Pat Mills created it. And it was about, as it says here, considered by many as the most important war story to appear in comics. Charlie's War follows the working class Charlie Bourne, who eagerly signs up to fight on the Western Front in 1916. He's only 16 when he goes in as well, but the First World War, the Second World was horrible. All wars are horrible, but there's something equally egregious about the First World War, because it was very much a war of class, not just never mind just fighting the Germans, but our servicemen in England were very much fodder because a lot of them were working class, and the officers were treated like royalty. There's a really bad division, and it comes very apparent in here. And there's meant to be a strict 18 or over policy for conscription, for joining up. But if you're eager and you want to get in the war, they'd sign you up. They'd overlook it and make some excuse. And this is done in 3 volumes. This is the first volume, but I still need to get the other 2 volumes. And it's just a masterclass in what you can do in a comic. And unlike American comics, British comics are all done on, especially in the 70s and 80s, they're all like anthology comics. So you literally had 3 to 4 pages to tell a story every week. And so you had to cram as much as you can into those 3 or 4 pages to make people want to carry on reading it. And this does it wonderfully so. You don't just find out about Charlie, you find out all the guys who he lives, eats, breathes, and unfortunately some of them stop breathing with. And it doesn't shy away from the harshness and the reality of war. How you weren't just facing attacks from the enemy, but from, like I said, the upper classes as well, the officers. And there's some very gross things. You've got to think Bottle was deemed a children's comic at the time, but this deals so much heartache and harsh realities of what went on. I mean, they were literally living in the trenches. So, you know, there was no such thing as like a nice comfy bed. You were sleeping and living in mud huts. So you had the risk of all the diseases going on. You had the risk of stepping on a mine. You had the risk of mustard gas attacks, all types of things. Yeah, and if you looked at an officer in the wrong way, you ran the risk of court martial. And court martial, if you're a private, would mean being shot. and it's just wonderful. Again, like Mouse, this is another one that everybody should own. It's a powerhouse of a story. Like I said, it's 3 volumes. Even if you're in America, you can buy this through Rebellion. And like I know in America you have things like Sergeant Rock and all that, but Sergeant Rock, I love Sergeant Rock, but it's fantasy. It sounds weird when I talk about a fictional comic here, but it is fantasy. Everything's slightly gung ho, slightly OTT. It's got a romantic view of the war. This has no romance on it at all. This you can almost smell and taste the mud. You can feel the grit and the grime, and it is very, because of it being about Charlie, who's a working class lad. You see it from the ground up, literally. You know, he's like the lowest rung of the ladder where you can get in the army, and that's what made it so refreshing. There was no romance to it. All the glitz and the bravado was stripped away, and what you were left with was this raw, unflinching, honest look at the war. They used to say, "Oh, what a lovely war about the First World War," which was sarcasm. I mean, it was evil because I mean, yeah, nowadays you've got all this modern warfare, but back then you had mustard gas, you had people charging you with bayonets, so it was much more in your face. Um, yeah, just woof. But yeah, it's a wonderful collection as well. It's got um, all the covers that he appeared in. It's got a glossary at the back as well, and it gives you like breakdowns of different episodes. It's just a must-have. Again, this should be on the curriculum of all schools as well. But if you're just a fan of a good comic, you will really, really enjoy this book. Next up, moving on from just have a sip out of my Bowie cup. Next up, moving on from war, and I was going to say, but again, there's a link. Oh fuck's sake! I think I like comics that just put me through the ringer, to be honest. So how Mouse made me fill up and just got me emotional just talking about it. I don't think I'm going to talk about this one for too long because this had the same effect. This is Murder Falcon. This was the graphic novel that made me fall in love with Daniel Warren Johnson. Initially, I mean, you look at the cover, you look at the synopsis, it says, "The world is under attack by monsters just as Jake's life is falling apart. No bands, no girl, no future. Until he meets Murder Falcon. Murph was sent from the Heavy to destroy all evil, but he can't do it without Jake shredding up a storm. Now with every chord Jake plays on his guitar, the power of metal fuels Murder Falcon into all-out kung fu fury. In order to stop Earth from being conquered, Jake will have to put his band, Bruticus, back together. But will that be enough to rock the entire planet?" So that's the back cover. I mean, obviously, I fell in love with Daniel Warren Johnson's artwork. But oh my god, that they lied on the back. So they said all that on the back, so you think it's going to just be a romp, be a romp. Have a bit of angst. This tore my heart out, chewed it up, trod on it, and put it back in. You know how people say Jeff Lemire's the king of sad dad writing for comics? This deals with grief in a way that sucker punches you. But Danny Warren Johnson, unlike Jeff Lemire, of course, he's just badass. I mean, having a fighting chicken bird, whatever he is, just amazing. But Danny Warren Johnson has this amazing knack of writing a story that deals with discussions about grief, what give you hope, and that's a hard thing to do. When was this? And I read this when it came out in 2023 in book format. Was it? And this hit home because I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to feel it this time. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'm just such. I'm a softie. I lost my dad to COVID at the tail end of COVID in 2021. And so I was still fresh. And obviously, when you lose somebody from COVID at that time, we had, I'm really showing a lot here, aren't I? we had, it had to be a closed casket funeral because we're still all in lockdown when he died. Um, so I couldn't see him at the hospital. I couldn't grieve for him the same way that you normally can. So I carried that with me for about a year and a half or so afterwards. And so when I read this, I was still kind of licking my wounds, if it were, and I had a lot of resentment, a lot of anger issues because of it, because I never really got to say goodbye to my dad. And this, in a beautiful way, because he says goodbye to, there's things that happen in this, but I don't want to give it away because you need to read it. It's an experience. It's a wonderful experience. This helped me say goodbye to my dad, to put closure. And I never thought I would read a comic that would kind of soothe my soul, which is what this did. I'm getting kind of new agey spiritual now, aren't I? But it did. It kind of like put a balm on what I was feeling. I was in quite a dark place mentally at the time, which is understandable because I mean, if you can't release the grief what you're dealing with, it just festers. And I cried like a baby when I read this. It's cathartic, or whatever you say for it. And it did. It gave me a sense of feeling. So I guess in a way, it holds a very, very special place in my heart. If I could write a thank you letter to Daniel Warren Johnson, I would do, just to thank him for healing something in me. Yeah, he kind of gave me a way to deal with grief, to let go, but not, to get rid of the anger. So this is very special to me. So if you've had that kind of experience, this I think is a really wonderful healing book. But if you're going through anything, any kind of grief or dealing with some kind of hardship, he's got a wonderful calming way of writing. Daniel Warren Johnson has. He brings a nice, wonderful, peaceful humanity to his characters. Even no matter how outlandish and way out his stories are, there's this. It's grounded in humanity and warmth, which this is. I mean, the story's crazy. It's batshit crazy, but it's wonderful. So yeah, it's a perfect book. So highly, highly recommend Murder Falcon. The next one I think needs no introduction. This was like the first superstar indie book. This paved the way for people like Robert Kirkman, where you could do your own creations and they could be contenders, heavy contenders against the biggest Marvel sellers or the biggest DC sellers. And of course, I'm on about Mike Mignola's wonderful Hellboy. Again, it's available in a multitude of formats, which is the way to do it. Have as many different formats for your book comics. And this is like Usagi Yojimbo, where you don't need to. You can start anywhere with Hellboy. Obviously, the first story gives you like the origin of him, but you can jump into any adventure. The whole expanded universe of Hellboy is a delight. So he's Hellboy. He came to being as a young demon child in the Second World War, got adopted by this scientist, and that's where his adventure starts. And what's great about Hellboy as well, even that now that the main story with Mike Mignola and the artwork is finished, they can still jump about in timelines because of him being um, around since the Second World War. They can do things in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on. So that's what's enjoyable about him. He can be fresh and relevant in any timeline, and there's so many untold stories of Hellboy still. And of course, the bonus of the original ones is you get the wonderful Mike Mignola artwork as well. And again, like Stan Sakai, Mike Mignola weaves in a lot of folklore from all over the world and mythology, which gives it a richness. There's almost like a Hammer horror kind of flavour to the characters. And then, of course, like I said, you've got the wonderful artwork, the gorgeous colouring by Dave Stewart. I think's always been his colourist. It's just great. I like this. This is for me is my favourite format for getting um, for for reading Hellboy. I think this is just a really nice, chunky but not unbearable way to read it. But you can get the omnibus, and monster size, and things like that. So yeah, Hellboy again comes with a huge seal of approval. Okay, this could be interesting. I'm having to charge my phone up. So, but I don't want to stop and leave it for ages and record again because I'll lose the flow. So next up, nearly finished anyway now. Next up, we've got this big beast of a book, Locus. So this collects the Maggie and Hopi stories from Love and Rockets. Love and Rockets been going since 1982 or 83, I think. No, 1981. So this collects all the stories from 1981 to 1996. You can get the individual Love and Rocket books as well, which also features stuff by Gilbert Hernandez, which there's Paloma books. But this, I've done an overview of this before. Jaime Hernandez is just like he's like Mike Mignola, but more from an. He's very much like today's Alex Toth, where he's got this wonderful black and white line work, but like Mike Mignola, where he's got a mastery over black and white. And what I like about this as well is how it goes from this almost like punk retro sci-fi story initially to just like this slice of life story about this disparate group of friends. And what's good about these as well, they age naturally. So you follow as you grow older, they grow older with you, and it's just wonderful. And on a personal level as well, it doesn't hurt that there's a good punk element, good music element, and a really fucking vast cast of LGBTQ characters as well. It's just one of my all-time favourite books. I adore this, and this is a really good, burdensome way to read, but a really great way to read. It's a really thick book, over 700 pages. And unlike Marvel, they're not going to charge you $100 for it. It's just $49.99. So it comes with my big seal of approval as well. And like I said, this will be interesting because I've not got my microphone in for this one. Okay. I hate having to like project my voice a bit more now. Next up is a bona fide classic. This is one which you can give to any comic reader, whatever the age. It's one that started life as a small indie comic. It got lucky and found a publisher who do young adult graphic novels before they were really a thing. So this was like the pioneer for the things like Dogman and stuff like that, but in a much more sophisticated way. And it's available in this wonderful, big, oversized, complete collection which I've got. I don't really need to introduce it. It's by Jeff Smith, and of course, it's Bone. This is the closest thing I think comics have to a comics magnum opus, which is basically the comics version of Lord of the Rings. There's a wonderful fantasy element, and like with Lord of the Rings, where you fall in love with the hobbits, with this, you fall in love with the Bones. My favourite, of course, is not Bone, but Phone Bone. I just love him. He's just wonderful. And the art, again, I'm a sucker for black and white. Obviously, I'm from England. We were raised on black and white comics. The art is just beautiful. If you've never read Bone, you can get it in this version, or like I said, there are colour, smaller size, like compact versions as well. But for me, I prefer it in this format because it's got the original black and white artwork. And it's a wonderful magnum opus, but very, very accessible. It starts off quite sweet and whimsical, and it goes very dark later on, but not off-puttingly dark, if that makes sense. But yeah, another classic, Bone. Okay, as they say on TV, and now for something completely different, we have one of my favourite series by one of my favourite comic creators, and that's the comic creator Naoki Urasawa. And this for me is his masterpiece, 20th Century Boys. This spans this group of friends from children from in the 60s all the way through to the cusp of the 21st century, but with this really, really amazing mystery that goes on as well. It's got a big cast of characters, but it's a big series. There's 11 book volumes of 20th Century Boys, and then you've got one book, which is the epilogue, which is 21st Century Boys. The art is just stunning. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There's cults, could be a potential invasion by aliens, all types of mysteries, all weaved in. When you think you've got the plot sussed, it then pulls the rug from under your feet, and you're completely wrong in what you were guessing. And it ties up perfectly. It's just a wonderful epilogue as well. I just like how he managed to fit everything that he needed in. You go away feeling completely satisfied with the story. And for me, if you've never read a manga, this is the one to get. And then, in a way, you could be disappointed because it'd be like giving a Western comic reader Watchmen as your first comic. It's that kind of experience. It's just, I can't sing its praise enough. I have mentioned this before on different videos. It's my all-time favourite book. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. So 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. Yay, we made it to the home stretch. So this is the final book. One of my all-time favourite writers is Brian K. Vaughan. Obviously, everybody knows him from Y: The Last Man and Saga. But for me, my favourite Brian K. Vaughan book is Paper Girls, which is complete, and you can get it in this format, and it's also in some nice chunky compact format as well. Very much a great way to buy it, but I just love having this because it's not overburdensome, because there's only, I'm saying only, but it's still a lot, about 750, 800 pages, and this collects everything. So it says here, finally, yeah, Paper Girls is a sweeping epic that follows 4 newspaper delivery girls from the year 1988 who uncover the most important story of all time. Suburban drama and surreal mysteries collide in this critically acclaimed tale of nostalgia, first jobs, and the last days of childhood. So they kind of started adapting this for TV with the Amazon series Paper Girls, which only had 1 season. If that's the only exposure you've had to Paper Girls, forget all that. It's shit. This is where you need to get it from. For one, it's got the gorgeous, gorgeous artwork of Cliff Chang, who's just an underrated genius. And it's got, again, I think I want to read this now. It's, if you like Doctor Who like I do, if you like timey-wimey stuff, this leaps about on all over time, different time scales. Like Looper as well, there's alternate realities in these timelines, and each character is impacted. They meet the grown-up versions themselves as well. Some of them, because like I said, these are all teenage girls, so they travel into the future, and there's a few revelations for some of them when they meet their adult selves, because some of them they weren't expected to turn out that way. Just put it that way. It's just great. It's twisty, turny, timey-wimey, dynamic action. It flows so quickly. It throws you straight in, straight away. You end up with having favourites. I had 2 favourites, and that being that one and that one. Those 2 are my favourites. And you just fall in love with these characters. And I love that it's female-centric. That was a brave move to make, because most comic readers are male. Most comic readers can be a bit misogynistic. Not everybody, but there's certain, you know, types. I mean, the ones that are like basement dwellers, the ones that watch all the rage bait videos and stuff. And it does everything that shouldn't work in a comic, and it works so perfectly well. It's a wonderful, huge sci-fi epic, but with the beat and the flavour of the best 80s movies. So if you imagine Goonies um, with Don't Tell Mum the Babysitter's Dead, that kind of upbeat feel, it's just great. The dialogue's amazing, and it's a John Hughes sci-fi. That's how I would describe it. It's just wonderful, and I think it's a perfect book to finish on. If you've never read it, like I said, it comes in some handy smaller size collections as well. Yeah, you will thank me for it. I adore Saga. Saga's great, but Saga's not finished, so that's one why I didn't put it on the recommendation list. But this is complete, and you'll have a blast reading it. And once you start, it's like Pringles. Once you pop, you will not stop. Once you start, you won't be able to put it down. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you like me doing these type of videos. If you want more like fun, like best obs, or if you like this, maybe you'll like that. Okay, bye.